Probably one thing is listen and be open. So that's what I learned, and that's what I try to do in every project. Not there's no only one way to manage projects, or there are different ways that or different recipes that can be applied to an organization. So every organization is different, has a different history, different setup, and not everything works everywhere. Right team is not just who is available, but who has the right knowledge, skills for delivering that particular project. So there is the tendency, for obvious reasons, to just look at who is available. But that's, if we look at ERP or digital transformations in general, we need to have the right team with the right skills in the project.
Hello, first of all, and welcome to Leaders Lounge by Quantum Dialogues, a thought leadership conversation series powered by NGenious Solutions, a Microsoft and ServiceNow partner. I am Yukta, Bhoneja, your host for today. Today we have with us Matteo Ganzaroli, an IT executive with international experience leading global transformations, enterprise programs, M&A integrations, and of course, known for helping organizations execute at scale with clarity, governance, and disciplined delivery. Matteo most recently served as Vice President, IT Business Applications at Comet in Switzerland. Prior to that, he was Global Head of IT Applications at Arc Roma in Turin and earlier led large international programs across Europe, including Musk Oil in Copenhagen as a senior project manager, and Infosys in Basel in portfolio and program leadership. He also brings hands-on enterprise systems experience from earlier in his career as in SAP logistical consultants at Bulgaria. What I personally enjoy about your perspective, Matteo, is that how grounded it is. That transformation is just not renaming initiatives, it's the discipline to execute. The operating model behind the change and governance that creates clarity instead of just friction. Matteo, welcome. Buongiorno. It's great to have you with us.
Buongiorno, buongiorno.
Okay. We also have with us Mr. Nilesh Mehta, author and CEO of NGenious Solutions. And Nilesh works closely with enterprise leaders on modern workplace, enterprise applications, service management, data analytics, AI and automation, and modernization programs. Have you left anything?
Well, I'm sure there's a lot to be learned from Mr. Matteo over here. So, happy to listen and learn from there.
Definitely. We all are here for that. And currently, Nilesh is curating insights from senior CIOs and technology leaders for his upcoming book, Reinventing IT Operations. So let's jump in.
Absolutely.
Okay. So, Matteo, you have led programs across Switzerland, Italy, broader Europe, and in different cultures, industries, operating models. Tell me, what's that one personal thread that connects your career choices? Like, what was that one turning point in your career that shaped how you lead transformation today?
I'm not sure I had one single turning point in my career. What I think, I can think about a couple of situations or a couple of things. One is when, I started working in a global ERP implementation. That was my very first job as a business analyst. And I worked 5 years for that company. That was, I was part of this project. And then when that finished, I started working as a consultant. And I actually thought I knew everything. I knew how the project had to be organized. What was the right governance. I knew how the system had to be configured, and so on. It turned out not to be right. So actually, I didn't know anything, or I didn't know much at that time. So probably one thing is listen and be open. So that's what I learned, and that's what I try to do in every project. Not there's no only one way to manage projects, or there are different ways that or different recipes that can be applied to an organization. So every organization is different, has a different history, different setup, and not everything works everywhere. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is that business has to be involved and in every I would say digital transformation, but in this case, we are talking about ERP. So it has to be fully involved and fully accountable, because eventually we are not doing this because of IT. We are doing this because we want to bring value to the organization. So they have to be leading or guiding together with IT all these digital transformation or ERP projects. So these two.
So value is what we are seeking, right? And those first 5 years were really important for you.
Were extremely important. I think I was young at the time, and when you're young, and that was an international project, so we travel a lot around Europe mainly, and somehow you get the feeling, okay, now I know how this has to be done and what is right and what is wrong. It's not the case. It's definitely not the case. I mean, I knew a little bit, but I had a lot more to learn. And more than anything, I learn to listen. So don't go in a meeting thinking that you know what is the right way, but go in a meeting and first listen, and then be open to start a conversation and drive it in, well, whatever the best is for that organization or that particular meeting.
So listen and be open, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Okay, now you tell me that you recently posted, right, that great ERP projects start with a great team. So, in your experience, what does the people operating model look like when you want an ERP to actually win? So, is it time allocation, backfills, incentives? And what happens after the go live so the team can come back and reintegrate well?
It's a combination of all of those. So selecting the right team is typically one of the first tasks to do, and when these projects start and are approved. Right team is not just who is available, but who has the right knowledge, skills for delivering that particular project. So there is the tendency, for obvious reasons, to just look at who is available. But that's, if we look at ERP or digital transformations in general, we need to have the right team with the right skills in the project. So, and to do that, we need to plan a backfilling, because typically these people are very important for the organization, and backfilling has to be organized and structured. This is an additional cost for the organization. So it's not always so easy to convince the steering committee or the sponsors, to go through the process. But this is one of the key, to deliver those type of projects. The team should be motivated. And motivation is not just, okay, I have a project and there will be a lot to do and we will bring a lot of value to the organization. It needs to be even tied to something more personal. So performance and so on related to the project, not related to operations. So this is a change. This, again, it's not easy to achieve because it has to do with HR governance, and so that requires some conversation even on that aspect. So, and then once the project ends, what is the plan after the project? Bigger organization, there are maybe there is a department for business process owners. In smaller organization, this is more a role than anything else, than given to somebody that has operational task. So this has to be planned in advance, discussed, so that again it's a motivation for who is part of the project to do its best to deliver that and to bring value to the organization.
So basically, like optimum utilization of everything that you have on the table.
To the best resources, assign the best resources you have in the organization to deliver something that is really important to the organization. Because when we think about big ERP transformation, these are key projects, with very considerable cost. But again, these are not only IT projects. These are, as a minimum, shared between IT and business. But who should have the value at the end is actually the business. So it's very important to have the right team there, and not just thinking that operations are more important. Obviously, operations are important, but even delivering these projects is extremely important for the organization and can bring quite considerable values. So right team on board and motivated.
Correct. Okay. So many organizations talk about governance, right? But it always kind of turns into friction. So, like, what is your practical definition of governance that creates clarity without becoming a handbrake? Like, what do you think, uh, which will create clarity and accountability without slowing down delivery or turning the program into like a report delivering factory?
It varies. I mean, I think here is going back to what I said earlier. There's not one recipe that applies to every organization, but having a business owner with real authority, that's key. And in these projects, a steering committee that decides, and just and the steering committee eventually should be very brief, and not only, I mean, we should try not to discuss too much in the steering committee. We only want the steering committee to decide. So which is when we have some open questions, we need them to say which is the right direction to take for the steering committee, not just looking at a lot of slides and opening a lot of discussions into a steering committee that typically doesn't bring much value if that happens. And then having clear escalation path. Again, that's extremely important. When there is a problem or there is an issue, I mean, we need to know who is the deciding authority. And then being very clear with what is the scope of these projects. Because scope eventually is clear at the start, but when you go through a project, sometime is not that clear anymore, or what are the priorities are not that clear anymore. So it's very clear to remind them in which are the priorities. And if they change, everybody should be aware within the project team and even in the organization. So that's something that is key in those projects.
So we should be ready to adapt along the way.
Definitely, because I mean, years ago, these projects were typically happening with a big bang. So the whole organization was going live on one specific day. Now I think it's more common to have different phases or the different rollouts. But still, I mean, it's extremely important to know what to set the expectations very clearly.
True, very true. You've been in environments, where they are shaped by integrations, restructuring, divestiture, and when an integration starts, what do you personally do? What are like your first decisions or guardrails that you put in place to prevent drift, rework, and stakeholder churn?
Ooh, that's even here. It's not very. I think there is one recipe, but what it's again about governance and clear accountabilities, clear guardrails on to establish some clear guardrails, to have a clear roadmap. So clarity on the expectations, clarity on the scope. Typically, what is clear to the sponsors or to the leadership team, or maybe to the board, depending on the organization, who is the sponsor of these projects, not always is very clear to the middle management or to the project team. So this has to be somehow transparent to the organization. So very clear communication. Communication happens in meetings, but communications happens even in one-to-one conversations. It's important that we have one way of communicating, or we communicate actually the same message. So maybe translated in different ways, I mean, for being really understood by everybody. But I mean, this is really key in these projects. If there are misunderstandings, they end up to be problems along the way.
Interesting. So yes, all those questions were enough for me. Now I would like to bring Nilesh into the conversation. As I mentioned, Nilesh is gathering practical viewpoints for his book, Reinventing IT Operations, especially around execution, risk, and what strong partner support looks like in the real world. Nilesh, over to you.
Thank you so much, Yukta. There's some amazing insights over there. But before I jump into questions, I just want to say how much I could relate to all the answers you were saying, right? I think both of us come with around 20, 25, 30 years of experience. And, everything that is said about how your journey starts and what happens, just some feedback on my side. I think, Yukta, your first question was what single point was a turning point. I don't think it was the same for any one of us. We come from the 90s, we barely had internet. We read books and we learn from actual hands-on experience and not GPTs, right? And we learned over a period of time. We made mistakes, but thankfully we learned properly. But you're saying sometimes you're the smartest person in the room, not because you're smart. With that specific technology, you just do some more than what the rest of the people have done over there, right? And thankfully, we learned as we grew, and that shaped our career path in terms of becoming the leaders and the architects that we turned out to be from that perspective. So I was just thinking about that when I say, like, when I started my journey, there was barely anything on the internet. There were not even books on technologies like some of these ERP technologies or SharePoint stuff like that. And then people were writing books after the fact over, right? So I think those are the kind of experience that shaped us. Being really hands-on and learning by mistakes is I think the most that I learned from personally from that perspective, right? Um, and having worked across multiple different industries, multiple different size of projects, one of the other things Matteo said was understanding about business, requirements over there. So the key to success was not only knowing your technology, but being able to understand what the business wants. And now when you're in the consulting world, sometimes you're talking to somebody in the pharmaceutical world, sometimes in the manufacturing, sometimes in, healthcare, being able to understand what that industry about, what that business is about, and then talking about transformation over there is, would be the right way to succeed in that project over there. But thank you so much, Matthew. I think, I was just thinking about everything that I would have gone through, and your experience, it just, brought back memories for me at that point. Um, Coming back to this, topic over here again, like you said, most of your experience has been around implementations with ERP systems, but other digital transformations also. Um, when you are leading large global projects, I'm assuming you've taken advantage of global capability centers also, right? Outside of local team members over there. What has been your experience in selecting um, the right partner to bring in that skill set and helping you walk the way and be succeeding in your project over there?
I mean, it depends on the type of projects. I think when we are looking at global ERP transformation, these typically are very relevant projects with big project teams. Uh, there is an RFP process and so on. I mean, apart from the obvious that costs are a driver, I mean, like in every organization. For me, what is really important is to when we are getting closer to the end of the RFP, actually to know the project team. So who the company or the potential partner will actually assign to our project. So for me, this is really important because I had experience where obviously, I mean, for the presentations and demos on, you get the best of the best. And then later on, I mean, you get a different team. So, and that typically end up in some conflict and or discussions. So for me, it's really important to get to know the project team, who will be assigned to the project that will be delivered for us. Obviously, these can change because a longer project, in a long project, I mean, there can be changes and that's fine. But getting to know the project team earlier helps, or even having the possibility later on to interview maybe in advance, I mean, who will be part of the at least for the key roles. That I think it brings some advantages. Not because I don't trust the partner, but because in theory, we from as customers are supposed to know a bit better our organization and how the organization works, and even possibly to understand not really only the technical skills, but really the management skills and communication skills and so on. This helps typically.
Understood. That's a great point. I think, again, especially because you're doing, again, these large scale projects, it are multi-year projects potentially, right? Anywhere from a year to more than that from the, it is important to make that assessment of a team early on in the game before you are too far deep in there to make sure whether this is going to be success or going to impact your success or impact your delivery schedules from that perspective. I think so knowing the team is absolutely the most important thing. Knowing the fact that just if I have 10 people working on my project, but there's a bigger organization behind there just to support me over there and available should something nice is also an important factor over there. You would mention that outside of ERP, you also focused on other Microsoft technologies, like maybe SharePoint, something, document management, other systems over there. What are key enterprise solutions from your point of view that should be focused on in your digital transformation, journey, right? ERP is obviously one of the key factors that you spoke about that you've done a lot of work on, but other related environments or technologies that people are still using legacy system or still on paper for some reason that you would highly recommend that companies should think about digital transformation in these areas over here?
Plenty. Typically, and here we are in an area where not every company is the same. So not every company has the same needs or requirements, has the same way of working, is in the same maturity level when it comes to IT or processes. So technology, today with technology, we can do many different things. That, as you know, there's a lot of discussions, everywhere about AI and what AI can do or cannot do or is supposed to do. So I always like to approach this more on the, let's say, the value that this can bring to the organization. So I have to look at where I am and what would be the best for the organization where I'm working. But technology today, if you mentioned Microsoft, we used in the past and even in my a couple of companies I work for, we use definitely the Microsoft Azure, so the cloud, move a lot of applications to the cloud. That brought some advantages, particularly on the cost side. So that definitely. With SharePoint, again, it can definitely bring some advantages to the organization. Can be combined even with ERP in some cases. But really, the approach for me is more on what is needed in the organization where I'm currently working. And it's not the same that is needed in the organization where I was working before, because it was in a different maturity level. Depends on processes, depends on really organization by organization. Definitely today, there is a fear of missing out, I think, from the leadership team to use AI in some way. But this will not bring any value if it's not structured and if it's not clear what do you expect. But approach it from the business side, not really, okay, what can I do with AI? The AI you can do not everything, but many different things. But what is good and what will actually be good for the organization in terms of bringing some advantages? What are the priorities or pain points so that the organization has today? So approach it from that perspective and then find the right technology, the right partner to actually support that or achieve that.
Excellent. You actually kind of stole my third question over there. My third question was all about the FOMO that most companies are going through about the fear of missing out on the AI bandwagon over here, right? And you rightly said, right? Every company should assess their current situation and where they can use it. Now, I think granted, we all understand that AI is always going to be part of our future in some ways or the other ways. What would be your guidance? I think you partially mentioned this, right? That assess your company and see how and when you can use AI. But what are the key areas where you think, as an organization, how do I try to figure out if I am ready to take on adoption for AI, right? Now or if I have the right foundation and the governance laid out for me to even take advantage of that platform over here. This one, because again, AI can be good, but it can be dangerous if you are not securing your environment, if you have not implemented governance properly. There could be a lot of concerns at that point, right? Leveraging that stuff, right? So how does an organization know that, yes, we need to use this, we are ready to use this, but are we prepared, or how do you prepare for it then?
I think AI is a complicated topic. Again, even here, I mean, the organizations are in a different maturity status. So governance is one of the topics, or probably that topic, including in governance, everything. I mean, on the IT side, is the company ready? I mean, what is the current status of IT? What is the current status in terms of data? Because if the data are structured and so on, I mean, then AI will actually bring quite some value. If the data are not structured, then AI will actually bring you quicker to a potential failure or to a lot of problems. Processes again. So what is the status? I mean, do we have global processes? Do we have only local processes? Do we have any process that is documented at all in the organization? So that these are all questions to be answered from a legal perspective as well. So where are the data? I mean, what happens to the data? How are they treated? Where are they stored? I mean, how much are we exposed? It's a very complicated topic, I think, AI, but it's not different from other technologies in a way. So you should always think, okay, what do I want to bring to the organization? What are the advantages? And then look at what is the best way to do it. So technology and so on, but for every technology that we bring in, we should always do some sort of assessment. IT, business, process, data. Do we have the skills? Do we need to rely on partners? What is the advantage that eventually you want to achieve? So I don't see too different from other technologies. I see that there is a lot of hype. Many organizations, I mean, are willing to move forward with something, but without the right foundation, it's not easy to achieve the results they expect.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And then if I may to add a couple of things, once you've decided that you want to move forward, then the next, and you have the baseline, how do I scale this? How do I monitor this constantly? And how do I can continue to support this going forward, right? Because it's an enterprise solution that has a journey. It's not, install it and I'm done. It's not that, right? You have to constantly keep evolving and monitoring it regularly from that perspective. So I think those were the questions for me. Again, I think one of my other objectives, as Yukta mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, was, I am in the middle of trying to author a book about reinventing IT operations, especially with AI in the focus now. And my goal is to take learnings from senior experts around the world like yourself who work from small businesses to large enterprise organizations, take the learnings from them, see how we can bring that knowledge in an easy manner to the SMBs and the mid-sized companies so they can benefit from the expertise of the enterprise platforms, but be able to do that maybe in a budget of their own or with a smaller team of their own, right? And that's the goal I'm looking for. So somebody who's got 20 plus years, 25 plus years of experience, managing so many things, if you were to look at the operation side of business, would you be able to give, let's say, your top 3 guidance or top 2 guidance to say, if you were trying to optimize your operations platform or your operations, team, these are the 2 things you would focus on?
You mean only IT operations, right?
At this point, yes.
So I mean, first, clarity of what is the status of operations. That means that you should have a tool, call it ticketing tool, or again, without mentioning any particular name, but
Customer experience tool, let's say customer experience.
That's that's the basic. So it's a foundation. So this is should give you a pretty good idea of what happens in the organization in terms of IT, how many tickets you have, and then processing them in the same way. So independently on what type of tickets, but having a proper way of managing the tickets, because this will actually tell you the workload of IT, and typically should even tell you where the issues are within the IT organization. If you manage to have proper SLA as well, it will help. The organization, you'll have a happier customer. So I think a ticketing tool in general and the processes all around the IT operations, are what tells you. It's like a thermometer for the organization, for IT. Tells you where you are. How can you improve? Then you have to work on this. Because behind every ticket, there is a team that has to work. Do you have the right skills? Do you have the right people? Can you optimize that? Can you be faster? Can you be better? What do you have to improve? Because if you receive a certain number of tickets, from a particular area, probably there you can do some changes that will alleviate that. So starting point, I would start from there. That's where I actually started in my last company. So we struggle with that. So that was what drives a number of other changes that we had to do in the organization.
It's great points. I think, if I were to summarize that, by implementing a tool like that, you get an assessment of your current situation, because you can get to see the number of tickets that are coming up. Regular reporting will allow you to generate reports on where can I optimize better, and define your targets on this is my goal. And now let's see where we can optimize the processes over here then. Is that
Yes,
a fair statement?
it is. It's a starting point to know where you are and to plan where you want to go. So that's a starting point.
Excellent. Thank you so much for that feedback. Appreciate it. I am done at this point. Thank you for all the answers. But Yukta, back to you.
All right. Thank you, Nilesh, for those questions. Now let's have a quick rapid fire. Just one line answers, Matteo.
Sure.
All right. One transformation buzzword that you would retire forever.
I think would retire alignment. I would retire alignment, because I receive so many requests to have an alignment, and alignment, to me has a bad meaning, in a way that if somebody is asking to align, it means that we are not aligned. So I would rather have a conversation about a certain topic, but not to have an alignment about something, because it somehow tells you that if I send you a meeting invite and the subject is alignment, somehow you know that we are not aligned. So that's a bad meaning. And I don't know, at least in my experience, alignment is a pretty common word.
The most common ERP mistake people do in 5 words.
Don't involve the business. Probably that's don't involve the business.
Your personal reset ritual when a program is under pressure.
For me, it's take a step backward and try to look at this from having the big picture of try to understand what is really going wrong. When you are too involved in a project or in a program, somehow you don't see the big picture. So you have to take a step backward and start really to look at, okay, are we going in the right direction or not? If not, then you have to take some action. Sometimes we are. It's just that you're so deep into some conversations that you lose that visibility.
Okay. Italian coffee or Swiss chocolate?
No, man, that's you cannot ask this to an Italian. It's like
you have to pick one.
So, no, I'll pick the Italian coffee.
Italian coffee. Okay. If you could give one advice to your younger self, what it would be?
I think that's what I said initially. Listen and don't think you know everything. Just listen and learn. So go into the meetings and listen what everybody has to say. Don't think that everybody is wrong just because they go in a different direction. Just listen, and very likely you'll find out that there are other ways to reach the same results. So listen and be patient.
Okay.
Listen and
The
be
mantra
patient.
is to be, yeah, to listen and be open. I'll surely use it. Yes.
Yes.
Matteo, to close this out, looking ahead to 2027 and beyond, what shifts do you think will matter most for IT leaders?
I think here I have to align with the hype of the moment, and AI will definitely play a big role in every organization going forward. How is not always easy to understand what every organization can do with AI or agent or with all the agents, but definitely this will be the focus, I think, for pretty much for every organization. Although I said earlier, this should be done in a structured way. So, and don't just run because everybody else is doing. Do it properly and do what is really helpful for your organization. There's no fear of missing out. So as long as you do it properly and be able to scale this, because it's a journey. I mean, it's like Nilesh said. I mean, AI, but in general, I think for digital transformation is really a journey. I mean, it has maybe a start, but it doesn't really have an end because technology develops and so on. So uh, you cannot just have fear of missing out because this will progress. So it's a journey.
Definitely, we better not FOMO.
And if you think about, if I may, for maybe if you wait, you get the best to start with while everybody is still doing the research and then fumbling around, right? And then you are starting when actually it's settled down and like this is the right way to do things then.
Absolutely. I mean, the fear of missing out is there. I mean, I can see that in the leadership team. I mean, everybody's talking about AI, and there's this pressure that typically the board has to do something. The point is what and what is right for you. So, and when is the right time? So these are all questions to be answered, I think. Uh, but yeah, definitely that is the direction for the next probably few years from now.
What's that one message that you would leave for aspiring IT professionals who want to make a career with real impact?
Probably it's the same that I would leave to myself. I mean, there is a lot to learn, and I always think that it's not just about IT. I mean, we are doing this to bring a value to the organization, to a company, and so on. So think about that. Think about the value that you can bring. Don't think about what is the best tool available in the market. Uh, think about how this can help an organization. So because that's eventually the business case, that's the return on investment that we want to bring as IT professionals.
Thank you, Matteo. This was genuinely insightful. And to everybody listening, if you enjoyed this episode, follow Quantum Dialogues for more such leadership lounges. And yes, we will be sharing the published link shortly. Until next time, goodbye.